What's up, Onnit people? Here we are again with another Onnit podcast, this time with Diane Sanfilippo of balancebites.com fame, a very popular blog, paleo focused. But you also have a new project that you just came out with, which is a 21-day sugar cleanse, which is an extremely important topic that I don't think people are adequately addressing.
Yeah, well, actually, the 21-day sugar detox originally launched about 4 years ago.
All right.
And last year, at the end of the year, I published 2 books, the 21-day sugar detox, the main book, which is the guide to the program. And then the second one is the cookbook, and it's the 21-day sugar detox cookbook. And that's kind of the companion to the main book. But the cool thing that's happening right now, like within a couple of weeks, is that the 21-day sugar detox program is coming back online. So that's the thing that I'm super excited about. Really want people to kind of just like get ready for it, because it's just going to be bigger, better, all of it. It's going to be awesome. I'm just really about it.
Yeah, beautiful. You know, I think that sugar is one of those things that has really infiltrated all the way down to the child level, with all the cereals and all the stuff that people have as kids, and you get stuck in these habits where it becomes part of your lifestyle and it's very difficult to break. So for those people who, like myself, occasionally find themselves craving a bit of sugar, what is the principal thesis of that sugar detox? Why do we need it? What's kind of going on in the body there?
So the thing about the 21-day sugar detox is that, I don't say that everyone has to do it. Like, there are people who feel like they have a really good relationship with sugar. They're not experiencing cravings. They feel well balanced. If they eat things that are sweet, they don't then feel like they need more of it, or they're thinking about it all the time. And for those people, good on you. You don't have to do this program. If you've got a friend you want to support, you definitely can. But I think there are a lot of people who are not in that camp, and a lot of people who, as you said, maybe they're just falling back on sweets because they're tired, because they're stressed, or maybe they grew up eating sugary cereals, and then sugar just kind of infiltrated all these foods that they maybe thought were healthy, like a fruit flavored yogurt, for example, that'll have lots of sugar added, or what people consider, quote unquote, healthy cereals, like a Kashi Goleen Crunch, for example, that I used to eat every single day, thinking I was like the picture of health eating that stuff, when really there's 3 different kinds of sweetener in that cereal. And so it's just this kind of pervasive thing where, it's not just about, okay, I'm going to have a treat now and then. Like, that's not the person that really needs a sugar detox. The person who needs a sugar detox is the one who's thinking about it all the time, craving it, doesn't even realize until I ask them to turn the package around on their favorite salad dressing or cereal or whatever it is, exactly how much sugar is going in there, not just in the grams of actual sugar count, but like, is sugar added to your pasta sauce? And do you need sugar in your pasta sauce? I think most people would make tomato sauce from scratch. You wouldn't add sugar. And so it's really creating this awareness, but it also changes your palate. So when you go 3 weeks on this, there's very limited fruit, which means that there's very little that's going to be sweet just to your taste buds. You might eat some beets, and they might become sweeter over time, maybe a sweet potato. If you're doing my energy modifications for athletes, pregnant and breastfeeding moms, there's modifications, guys. But, for the most part, you're not getting that, oh, I want something sweet, and then you quench it with something sweet. You can totally eat all different kinds of foods that have carbs in them that are listed in the program. There's lots of yes foods that are carbs, but you're not getting sweet foods. And it really does take you at the end of the 3 weeks to this place where you've transformed what you're sitting around feeling like, I want to grab this and eat it. Like, you just don't have that same feeling of, I need something sweet all the time. And I think that that's something that really gives people what I call food freedom. Like, you're in control, not in like a, calculated, precise way, but like, you're in control of your choices because they're not controlling you. These cravings aren't controlling you. And it is really freeing for people. They just get to this place like, wow, I can't believe I can eat a meal, and then like 4 to 6 hours later, I can eat another meal, and I wasn't freaking out in between. I wasn't looking for all these different, crutches of energy or sugar or whatever it may be. So those are kind of the goals of the program. And one other really cool kind of benefit, I don't really promote this as a weight loss program. A lot of people do lose weight It can be great. It could be something you weren't to do. You know, some people do, some people don't. It's not the main goal of the program. But like some of the really big effects that I see that I love are that people start sleeping better and their energy is better. So that like 3 o'clock dip, people are finding after a week or even 2 weeks on the program, they're not experiencing that, or they're not reaching for those sweets anymore because they've changed their habits. Then they're sleeping better. All these things kind of come together, and it just really changes people's entire outlook. It's just fun for me to have people go through the program and watch different new things that happen. So it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. So now I have a bunch of different questions I have, but one of them that comes up is regarding fruit, because there's certainly a few different camps. Some that say eat as much fruit as you could possibly want and can possibly stand. That doesn't count as sugar. You know, that's something that the body is able to metabolize differently. And then other people are saying, well, you know, you should probably kind of stay away from some of the sugary fruits. What's your kind of philosophy as far as what you've seen from people and what works best in your mind?
Yeah, so my general philosophy on fruit is that it's a real, whole, nutrient-dense, healthy food. When it comes to the sugar detox, it's a different story because a lot of people who are coming to the program might not be eating other sugary things, but they're finding themselves leaning on fruit and relying on fruit just because, again, it's the sweet craving or they're not prepared. That's like a huge reason why people tend to eat a lot of fruit, is that it's easy to grab. It's there. You don't have to cook it. You don't have to thaw it. You can find it almost anywhere. But what that does is it takes away this level of like, you should be prepared. If you know you're going to be hungry, which you are, we need to eat it every day. There's really no excuse to not be prepared, at least in some way. You know, you might not have that snack you need on hand, but you know you can go to, Whole Foods or whatever the store is and get it, or whatever the case may be. When it comes to eating fruit for somebody who's like healthy and active and, has body composition that they feel good about, I don't have a reason for people to limit a real, whole, nutrient-dense food like fruit. I really don't have an issue with it. I don't personally subscribe to the notion that, just eating fruit all day without other types of maybe vegetables and animal protein and all that. I'm definitely not someone who's going to promote like a fruitarian type of diet. But I'm definitely not going to demonize a real whole food if somebody feels good, looks good, is healthy, and says it's working for them. I don't have an argument,
Yeah, no, it seems to make a lot of sense. I mean, we evolved alongside these certain food groups, and I think that's one thing that paleo gets very well. Occasionally it can get a little strict, but that general principle of if our digestive system evolved alongside a certain nutrient base, it would make sense that those two would fit together like a lock and key in some way.
And there's variability. Yeah, there's variability for different people. So one of the big things that I get questions about and I talk about a lot is, digestive function and what's happening with our gut, for example. And there are a lot of people who, whatever's happening with their gut bacteria is balanced such that digesting a lot of types of fruit is really difficult for them. And sometimes it doesn't manifest in digestive distress. So this is like the big thing where, fruit can be problematic, especially the really sweet fruits. Like mango is one that can be tricky, pineapple, because it can upset the digestive, the bacterial balance in your digestive system. And for some people that can lead to a lot of other issues. So I think that's also the program. When people get rid of these sweet things, their digestive system kind of calms down sometimes. So it really just depends on the person. I don't have like a black and white, fruit is bad, fruit is good for all people. It just doesn't work that way. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I don't know if you saw it, but there was a video that kind of went viral about really based on sugar and artificial sweeteners and how it affects the beneficial bacterial balance in your gut. I think it was actually put out by a company that was trying to sell some kind of probiotic. But nonetheless, I think the information was pretty interesting presented in there as far as what the effects of sugar are having on your, good microbes versus your bad microbes like, yeast and the other things that might be growing inside your body. Is that kind of the main reason that you have for the sugar detox, or are there some other reasons as well? It wasn't really because this whole idea of gut bacteria and like we, myself, whoever I'm studying alongside have known, since I've been studying that the digestive system is kind of the key to everything. But the idea that the bacterial balance and what we're what we're feeding it in terms of different types of carbohydrates, what we may have done to it in terms of antibiotics we may have taken without trying to, come back with some probiotic content. All of that, the impact that that has on our gut, and then on how we may or may not handle carbohydrates in general, I think is like a gigantic topic that's probably going to blow open in the next 5 years. And so it's not the reason why I first created the program. The reason I first created it was for people like me who years ago, this isn't the case now, couldn't leave the house for 2 hours and go to Target. I tell the story all the time because it's exactly what used to happen to me, but I couldn't go to Target without a granola bar in my purse, because if I was gone from the house for 2 hours, I would get hangry, that like shaky, starving feeling where I just need to eat whatever's here, and otherwise I'm going to pass out. And so I really originally created the program for other people who struggled like I did with that type of situation, that blood sugar roller coaster. And I think, I think part of it really is addressing all of these sugars that are in the diet that are especially not the natural, real, whole ones that we were talking about, all these added sugars, because I think it is kind of becoming the like that, maybe over time, the problem with the sugar has not just been the sugar and the fact that it perhaps can rob nutrients from the body. It takes vitamins and minerals to metabolize sugar, all carbohydrates. But if we eat sugar that's refined without vitamins or minerals, we're still using these things from our stores to metabolize that stuff, and we're not actually getting any back. So we're just constantly depleting our nutrient stores when we're eating refined sugar. But I think, I think what that's done to our gut bacteria has made it such that some people don't do well with even the real stuff, if that makes sense, because
Sure.
of the balance that's going on there. Some people just cannot eat a mango without digestive distress. And so it's not an allergy, but there's an intolerance going on there. And I do think it probably comes back to that bacterial balance for sure. But it wasn't the reason I created it. Again, that was, 4 years ago now. So I had a whole different list of reasons why I wanted people to do this.
Yeah, it's interesting. People think of, people don't really bore down all the way to the signals that are coming all the way to the brain, like the decision to want to eat a granola bar. Where is that coming from? Like what organisms are responsible for telling you that you need to do that? And I think that's an interesting topic, because we just think that thought arises from our brain alone, when there's really a complex pathway that they're actually finding more and more scientific evidence involving the gut itself, as far as what the brain is actually thinking, controlling from neurotransmitters to hormones.
Yeah.
So much of it is happening in the gut that what you think of as a thought, and you just should need to change your thought, well, you may need to change the signal that's actually going to your brain that's creating that thought.
For sure. And, there are a lot of folks who they're like, well, glucose is a preferred fuel source of the body. It's quick and easy to use. And so the body really wants and needs it. And I'm not arguing that we don't want any glucose in our system at all. Any carbohydrate matter. It has nothing to do with telling people never eat carbs. It's just funny because as we talk about it, it reminds me of all the things that people just assume I think about food. Like people assume that because I have the sugar detox program that I think sugar from fruit is evil and unhealthy and people should never eat it. I'm like, it's a 21-day sugar detox. It's 3 weeks of your life to not eat, certain fruits. It's not for the rest of your life. But, the truth is also that people get to this place where they're, again, if somebody's healthy and they want to eat their ice cream or eat whatever they want to eat, I'm not going to argue with anyone. But when somebody comes to me who's struggling, sugar is something I'm going to get out of their diet. There's no reason why they should be eating sugar on a regular basis. And even to, we were talking about the granola bar. People don't realize that a bowl of cereal, even a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast, is basically a bowl of sugar to your body. And that doesn't mean that a very healthy person in the context of an overall nutrient-dense diet couldn't eat perhaps a bowl of oatmeal and be healthy. It just means that it's not working for this person. Let's get food on their plate that's a lot more nutrient-dense. Let's get some vegetables, maybe some fermented stuff, and some kind of protein and fat on their plate, and start them out with something different and get their body into a different situation so that we're not just putting sugar in all day long, because those are the struggles that people really have. And a lot of people who, they want to argue different sides of this thing, they don't really work with people every day. They don't really see what the struggles are. And so that's why I created the program, because I'm like, here's the struggle, and then here's how to do it, because we can talk all day about all the problems with what's in our food and all that, but it doesn't help until you give somebody a really clear action plan and a list of like, here's what I want you to eat, here's what I want you to avoid. And it's not about a diet for the rest of your life. It's about 3 weeks to kind of reset what's going on. And, you know, I am somebody who is a proponent of a lifestyle. I absolutely don't want people dieting all the time, but I have seen for myself and for a lot of my clients and my readers the benefit of a structured program for a period of time. It gives you boundaries and like, okay, somebody's telling me this should work and it should do these couple of things and should really help me with this or that. And then they get to experience it rather than kind of like weeding through things on your own. I mean, people don't expect somebody to open an electronic, you know, item and not have a user's manual. And part of this whole nutrition thing, I'm like completely on a tangent, and I don't know if you knew that this would happen, but it kind of happened. But, you know, people think that because we have this body and because we've been eating for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that we know how to eat. And a lot of people argue that like, oh, don't listen to diet gurus, or you don't have to read all these books. And I'm like, well, they're struggling. They need help. They want help. Let me help somebody. Here's a program that I think can help. And I put my best honest work into a program like this because I see it help tens of thousands of people every single year. Like, it's unbelievable how many people have just like ridiculous success with this program. And so I love that I can help people do that and give them something that's like, at the end of the day, it's just real food. You know, It's like, there's no gimmick, there's no powders or potions. I'm not selling anything really, except giving people, you know, educational materials. That's all it is.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You know, and when I give people obviously similar advice, and I think one of the most important things that I tell people is to, if you're gonna have sugar, like, make it count. Like, cut out at least all the really cheap ways that you get it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to the Salt Lick and you really want some good barbecue sauce, go for it. You know, have the barbecue sauce.
And Diane are not taking away my Salt Lick.
This is not my favorite. I read the ingredients on my way out, and I was like, I can't eat there again.
Yeah.
It wasn't. La Barbecue, that one.
La Barbecue is ridiculously
good. That one's my favorite,
good.
and now I'm annoyed because
I didn't know that you were going to know about La Barbecue. You know, I said Salt Lick because I thought maybe
La Barbecue is world renowned.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I've been to Austin many times. We mess around when it comes to food. I think we waited in line like, I don't know, 45 minutes or an hour at La Barbecue last time I was there. Paleo FX. Yeah,
it's so good. But anyway, so my point being that if you're gonna have some sugar, like, make it so it's something that's memorable, you know, rather than just drinking sodas all day or sugary juices or these little things that you don't even think about. You don't really even enjoy. You're just doing it out of some kind of habit.
There's no awareness to it. Like, it's not that I want people to move through every day like hyper aware and freaking out about their choices, but if I'm going to eat some grass-fed ice cream, for example, there's this one company called Jenny's. I've been to Lick in Austin, but Jenny's salty caramel completely like crushes there. So anyway, Jenny's is out of Columbus, Ohio. Have you had it? They don't pay me to say this, but like, their salty caramel, every time I have it, because it takes so long in between when I'll buy the pint, so it's like $12 here, you know, literally my fiance and I will sit on the couch like, oh yeah, that's the stuff. Like, we forgot how good it was, and it is still just as good every time. And that's the stuff that's like worth it. But, you know, we're driving home from Lake Placid this weekend and we see this ice cream shop. We've been in traffic for hours and we're like, you know, we're not even going to stop because it's not going to be good. Like, you get this awareness of, you know, where is sugar? Do I even want to eat it? Will it even be worth it? And like you said, people are throwing back sodas. Even, you know, one of the things I talk about too is like salad dressings, anything that just has added sugar. It's not like that trace amount is like killing people, but they're so unaware that it's even there that over the course of the day, they've eaten, teaspoons and teaspoons of sugar that was added to foods that they never would have thought had sugar add them. You know what I mean? So it's one thing to be drinking or eating something sweet, and it's another to also be eating these things that you don't even feel like they're sweet. Barbecue sauce is a big one. I mean, I love barbecue sauce, but definitely that's why they taste so good. They're loaded with sugar. I'll have to tell you, I have a really good ketchup recipe in the 21-day sugar detox that I'm not kidding. And I'm kind of like a ketchup snob because I used to love the Heinz, but corn syrup is not going to happen anymore. The ketchup recipe in the 21-day sugar detox, Those are the ones that are things like brown sugar, honey, maple syrup, molasses, maybe your palm sugar, date syrup, those kinds of things where they're made by very simple processes. So you could make date sugar if you wanted to at home. It's pretty easy. It doesn't really involve, a lot of chemical processes or anything like that, big factories. So those are kind of the basic. Mm-hmm. And that also includes things like stevia if it's green, or if it's an extra. You actually could make stevia extract at home if you wanted to. Then we've got the naturally derived. So this is where your high fructose corn syrup falls in. It's natural. It's derived from corn. So it came from nature at some point, but that doesn't mean that it's
from
healthy.
Nature via Monsanto.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, yes, it came from nature, and perhaps the, chemical makeup of is at the end similar to agave, similar to high fructose corn syrup, or honey, maybe in their end sugar components, the types of either sucrose or glucose or what's making it up. I don't have all of those on the tip of my tongue, but you have to consider the way that they're made, and also, just the processing. And so then the worst on the spectrum for me are artificial sweeteners. So that'll be things like Truvia that's white. So that's the stuff that is not really, it's the stevia, but it's been bulked and it's been bleached, and it's just not the natural form. Sucralose, so that would be your Splenda, Sweet One, like all these different, artificial synthetic chemicals. I'm just like reading them so I don't forget some. NutraSweet, Equal, Sweet and Low, which I don't even know if people still see Sweet and Low anywhere, but all those little brightly colored packets. If I'm out somewhere and I want to sweeten something, if it's just out and about and I don't have a huge list of choices, maybe at Starbucks it's a packet of honey because they have honey for tea or whatever you want. Or I'll use that like turbinado sugar. It's sugar, but that little packet is either a teaspoon or like a half a teaspoon. So for somebody who, in the overall context of a healthy diet, a couple of grams of sugar that you're adding to your coffee or whatever it is not that big of a deal. It's the people who are ordering the Frappuccino or the latte, and it's got like 4 pumps of sweetener in it, and they're like, I don't know why I can't lose weight. I get this non-fat skinny latte every day. And I'm like, well, do you know how much sugar is in there? They have no concept. Or even artificial sweetener. If it has a ton of artificial sweetener in it, that can set your body up for complete failure. You can either just be telling your body you're taking in sugar and have this insulin response anyway, or you can just be storing toxins because you're taking in this artificial sweetener that your body does not know how to metabolize that. It's going to store that in your body fat. So just a lot of reasons, but on the spectrum, I put artificial sweeteners as like never, the stuff like high fructose corn syrup is like avoid it, but don't freak out. If you're like dining out and it's not something you do all the time and you want to have a little dollop of the Heinz ketchup, I just wouldn't freak out about it. I wouldn't keep that in your house though. Like I would buy the organic ketchup that's made with organic cane sugar. It's just a better form of sweetener. Sure. But again, that's kind of context. What I generally use for sweetener in my house will be grade B organic maple syrup, some kind of organic honey if I use that, and sometimes like a coconut sugar. But I don't use a ton of sweeteners. Right. I don't bake, so that's like
right. Speaking of the artificial sweeteners, I mean, to me, there's a gigantic distinction from something like aspartame and stevia, even if it is processed. I mean, aspartame, Orlando, you were the one who shared that video with me first. It's a really interesting story about how that even got approved as a substance.
Aspartame?
That somebody could eat and actually safely ingest. And they had to do these crazy maneuverings where they put somebody up on the FDA council just for that job, and he just stayed long enough to be the deciding vote to get aspartame approved, and then he resigned after that. And there's all of these different animal studies that are showing the toxicity. I mean, it's literally just
it's a
lab.
known neurotoxin. Yeah. It's a really bad one. And I think the website is doorway.com, just DORWAY.com. If people want to find out more about aspartame and then things like MSG, which is still kind of in the food supply. People think it's gone, but these neurotoxins that, but I've seen it even with, I've seen it with the Truvia as well. that people are eating it and then they stop eating it and they're like, oh, this headache that I've had for the last 3 months seems to have gone away. And so it can be anything. And one person may feel okay eating something and one may not. And then some of these sweeteners, people have eaten diet sodas for 10, 20, 30 more years. Sometimes the effects are not hitting until it's kind of this built up effect. It doesn't hit you just because you drank one diet soda, but over the last 30 years, people, I literally, especially with the sugar detox, I get people coming to me who are like, I'm addicted. I drink 6 cans of diet soda a day. Mm-hmm. And like, that seems staggering, but it's so common. And so just getting people to like get off of that stuff and to realize, I don't even have people do that cold turkey, but they don't realize all of the effects it has. You were saying, you think your brain is making decisions. Well, what if you think your brain is making decisions, but you're consuming the toxic chemical 6 times a day?
Yeah.
It's a real problem. Artificial sweeteners, I've been around a lot of low carb groups, and I've been on the low carb cruise a couple of times. It's a cruise that it left out of Texas a few times, out of the Houston area. But some people who are following that way of eating, they haven't gotten like all of the information yet. And so sometimes people just go to this low carb way of eating, which, I think it can be fine. But then they'll eat anything just because it's low carb, and they don't realize that part of that's the artificial sweeteners that are in there, just getting the carbs out. So yeah, artificial sweeteners.
Get rid of them.
Thumbs down. Like,
yep.
Yeah, Roger Ebert or whatever.
Well, I think that's all been great advice. What are the best ways for people to kind of keep up with you and follow some of your latest stuff?
Yeah, so I have a podcast every single week. It's called the Balance Bites Podcast. Myself and Liz Wolfe, who's a nutritional therapy practitioner. The two of us answer questions every week. Sometimes we do interviews. They're not fancy video interviews like this, but we do that every single week, and it's a great time. So you can check that out, or balancebites.com. That's the main kind of hub for everything that I do. My books, Practical Paleo. I have them here. I can show you for those who may not know. Practical Paleo, is it backwards? I don't even know on your video. And the 21-Day Sugar Detox, both my books. And for people who just want to get started, Practical Paleo is a great place to get started. If sugar is your big issue, carb cravings, all that, 21-Day Sugar Detox is a great place to start. And, the new program's coming back online, so people can hit up 21daysugardetox.com, sign up and get these 4 free videos that I've made that will teach you some of what I've been talking about today with, why do we crave sugar? Where does sugar hide that we might not really think about? What are some foods that help us to naturally detoxify, and how do we find that food freedom? So I'm excited. I love talking about this stuff.
It shows. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, and definitely look forward to more communication and seeing how we can support the cause, and get more people who are eating sugar when it counts and not when it doesn't. I think that would be the win.
I like that.
Yeah. For sure. Well, thanks for coming on the Onnit podcast, Diane. I appreciate it. And people, follow her, check her out, and get healthy, get happy, live well. Much love. See you later, everybody.